I've had the opportunity to know a lot of dietitians and personal trainers. And I feel like this program, it's great at summarizing all the little things that you need in order to be successful. It's been absolutely incredible.
And it has completely changed everything. Like the body transformation is one thing, but the mental transformation has been like a bigger leap for me.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello, guys. Good morning. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm very well. Anika and Eddie, welcome to the show, guys. Thank you for agreeing to come on. It's really nice to get to talk to you. Whereabouts? I don't know whereabouts in the world you guys are exactly.
New York.
Good. Well, listen, let's just dive straight in. First of all, thanks for agreeing and wanting to come on one of the episodes for the podcast. Always lovely to get to speak to people in the program. Even more lovely to get to speak to when it's couples who are in the program, because I say to couples when they join, I've always found that when there are couples in the program, they get exponential results because they although their programs and plans will be different and specific to them and their particular goals, they both have a rough idea of the framework and the idea and kind of know when the other one's not quite getting it done, right? And so although you laugh knowingly, right? Although there's not, I don't think, accountability there because obviously you've got the coach doing the accountability work, at least there's support because you're like, well, you know the structure. So I always like to get a little bit of background because, of course, I kind of know where you guys were when you started, but of course, everyone watching and listening to this won't have a clue. So, Anika, let's just start with you. First of all, well, we both know you from New York, but give us a bit of an idea as to who you are, what you do. So maybe like work background, but then also maybe what it was that you were struggling with, concerned with, wanted to change at the beginning of the program that made you want to start something like that. What we do here. Give us all a little bit of background from you both about that, so we've got a bit of a starting point.
Well, I'm a pharmacist. Initially, in the beginning of my career, it was mostly being on my feet for hours job, but then I switched to like a desk job. So it was a little bit of a sedentary lifestyle. And I've always been into fitness where going to the gym, weight training, but then I put on a lot of weight after I had 2 kids, almost like 30 pounds or more. And my first way of tackling it, I thought was HIIT training. So I did that for almost 2 years with not a single pound of difference or any visible changes. And then I switched. I'm like, okay, time to try weight training. And I did that for 6 months again, without putting all the pieces together with the macros and the changing my diet and everything else, adding steps, hydration, sleep, changing none of that. Again, I saw no results in 6 months. And in my head, I thought I was eating healthy, but unless we are accounting for every gram or tracking, it was not working out. So I needed a concrete plan, know exactly the numbers I needed to hit, like something structured. And the biggest piece was accountability. That was the biggest piece. So that's what attracted me to this program.
So just to sort of go back then, Eddie, before we come over to you, just so you essentially you put in a heck of a lot of work. So post having children, a couple of years of one thing, like months of another thing. So ultimately, you'd been putting in a lot of effort. It would probably been taking up a lot of time, but you've pretty much zero result for the thing that you wanted, which was to get you back to a weight and figure, I guess, that you were happy with. Nothing was working. So you were probably starting to get a bit frustrated, I imagine. I imagine it was getting frustrated and maybe even a little demoralizing. It's like, okay, well, maybe now this is what it's like having a female body, the other side of having children. I just need to put up with it and that's it now, kind of thing.
Yeah. Even actually, Francesca had to do a lot of work because I was putting my labels on myself. I'm like, oh, I have slow metabolism. Oh, I'm a endomorph. Oh, I've just reached that age where I hold on to fat. And, she had to debunk a lot of those labels for me.
I think this is, she mentioned this to me actually, and it's normal. In fact, the last gentleman I spoke to who just come on, it's normal for us to sort of be, I've broken my metabolism. I'm one of the people that just now won't be able to lose this. It's going to be my hormones, something. And it's a normal thing that we start to sort of, I guess, label ourselves or put ourselves into categories that most of the time don't exist. But normal. Cool. Right. So we've got a starting point for you. And Eddie, I mean, obviously you then came along and joined, and the same question. Tell us a little bit about what it is you do. And again, like where had you got to in terms of goals that you wanted to achieve or things that you were struggling with, again, that made you want to come onto something like this?
Absolutely. So I am a marketing manager. I'm not on my feet all day like she is. I currently work from home since COVID. And I played a little bit of sports growing up. So I was always fairly in shape. And as I got older, I never went to the gym too often. And what I would do is I'd go 3 months and then I'd take a break and then I'd come back again and I keep going on and off. And what I found is that as I was getting older, it was tough for me to kind of get back into shape. And then I seen her going through all of this. She went through all these different programs. And then eventually when she got to Francesca and your program, I seen the results. And she sold me on it. She was like, because I kept going a couple days, taking off, and I wasn't consistent. And I kept telling myself, I did this before, I could do it again. And there was no accountability. I wasn't sticking to anything. So I saw her results and she said to me, just try it. Just start it off and try it. And immediately, once I did it, I realized how impactful it was. The program itself is incredible. I love the app. I love the weekly check-ins. The consistency, it's just been really, really good. I've had the opportunity to know a lot of dietitians and personal trainers, and I feel like this program it's great at summarizing all the little things that you need in order to be successful. It's been absolutely incredible. So.
Oh, well, that's a glowing report back. Thank you so much. I always think, first of all, thank you both for the sort of, where you've got to, and your praise of the program is always appreciated. I will then just put a mirror straight back onto you guys and go, well, you've done the work. All we do is try to guide you and yes, put the right things in place and all the little bits that it might be. But, credit always goes down first to the individual that's then gone and done the work, because it's you guys that have followed the plan. It's you guys that have, been diligent with following things and probably saying no to more things than you were used to, if you're honest, right? Because it's saying yes to a glass of wine, yes to this, yes to that. That's what gets us into trouble. And more often than not, the more times we hear ourselves say no to something, the easier life actually becomes. So you obviously both got to a point, and again, so Eddie, you talked about consistency or lack of consistency up to this point. So doing something, stopping, and I guess if you now look back, you probably think, well, it's obvious it wasn't going to work because there was no consistency in place. But then what is it about the program that then do you think has allowed you to put consistency in place?
So I'll say two things. Number one, to your point in the beginning, doing it with your spouse helps. Because if you have a spouse that is on the opposite end, that's not really into it, and she decides, hey, I want to eat super unhealthy, or I'm never going to go to the gym, when I'm having those rough days, it makes it a little bit tougher to maybe get up really early in the morning or to not eat that unhealthy food or whatever like that. So it definitely helps. I do think that it falls on both of us. Individually, I would say that helps a little bit. As far as the program, some things that I love about this program that we didn't have with other things is, one is flexibility. So I love the idea that the program is there and we can go to the gym whenever we want. It doesn't have to be, we come up and we show up for this certain thing at 5 p.m. after work, and that's the only time we can make it. What happens if we're late and we have a meeting or something like that? So I love the flexibility of just go and do your X amount of days. I love the structure of the nutrition plan. That helps a lot, because as we've gone through that and we've been counting our macros, we've become very conscious of when we go out to eat now, oh, we can't eat this or we can't eat that, or we'll know we have X amount of calories left. We're not allowed to touch this. That's helped a lot. That's been a really big thing. And another aspect that I like that I would say is really big is the flexibility on your team's end to be able to say, for us to come and say, hey, we don't like this. We would like to change this. And that's probably one of the biggest things that I've seen that's been different from all the other things, because all the other things are very set in their structure. They're going to go through a certain workout plan and be like, we're going to do X, Y, and Z this week. We're going to do A, B, C the following week. And for us, let's say I have an issue with something. What if it's like, hey, that exercise doesn't work for me? In this program, it says, Francesca will come to us and say, let's switch it up. Do this instead. Or you know what? You hurt your back. Let's pull back a little bit. Let's do this. The same thing with the nutrition plan. That's probably big.
Yeah, the
really big.
Is amazing.
Yeah, the tweaking and the food specifically, because I've been in programs where they just give you the thing. It's like, you have to eat X, Y, and Z. And it's like, I don't like that. And then what will happen is for 3 months, we'll go through it and we'll painstakingly eat it. and I can't stand the food. And eventually I just have a breakdown. It's just have a slice of pizza or something. But now it's been consistent to the point where I'm eating food that I like, that's also healthy. And that's been super helpful.
Yeah, that's the best part. Like, I hate chicken, and every program, like, you have to eat protein chicken. I hate that. But Francesca knows this, so my plan has like fish and beef and eggs, which I enjoy. So I don't feel like I'm on a diet. I feel like I'm eating what I would have eaten anyways.
And you know, I think that's the whole point. Like it shouldn't. There is no diet. It shouldn't be a diet. It should be a framework and understanding of eating that will serve you for the rest of your life. And you said a number of things in there. So one is flexibility. Like, you know, we're going to write a plan for someone, and there's going to be what to eat, when to eat it, how much of it. Like, there has to be something that shows structure. But eating off a plan for the rest of your life actually doesn't sound very much like a plan, does it? It doesn't. It sounds like it's going to fail. So then what we try to do, and I think what you guys is understanding is, well, you can swap foods in and out. Like there are lots of different ways to get the right foods in. And no, it doesn't have to be chicken. It doesn't have to be this. It doesn't have to be that. I think if ever a program or a plan ever says to somebody, you must do this or you mustn't do that, or this is the best or this is the worst, I think people should probably run a million miles, because it's too absolute, isn't it? It can't possibly be that absolute. Our lives aren't like that. And I think so. Okay, first of all, in terms of the food, I think you've also said in there, when you go out and eat, it's given you an understanding of, oh, well, we can't have that because we've got this many calories left. Now, some people will hear that and be like, oh, that sounds a little bit like being in a food prison. If the desire to reach the goal is high enough, actually then what it gives you is a degree of actual freedom, because you know what you can and can't have. And, you know, all this stuff over here that you can't maybe quantify. You've gone out for a nice meal, so you still get to go out for meals, which obviously sounds great. And that's a massive part of what we want for our clients. But you can look straight at a menu and be like, I can't tell what's in that. Like, here's a good example of meals where, I mean, if you look at, say, steak, fries, salad on a plate, you can be like, okay, I've got a rough idea what's going on here. You know, if we look at something where it's, you know, it's a lot of things mixed together and you can't tell what's in it, you're thinking, well, I don't really know what's in this, and it's probably going to bust my calories. And there's a choice because it's a restaurant. So there's a choice there. So, well, okay, well, that one's just off the list, which means when you probably walk away, you've still got to go to a restaurant. You've still got to eat out. You've still got to make a choice. And you don't walk away with any feeling of guilt, like you've wrecked the day. And I think now you have that understanding. And then going back even further, I think one of the things you said, which is probably more to do with the training, and this is a huge part of when, understandably, when someone will come to the program, not that I really get someone say this, but someone might say, well, isn't seeing somebody in person better than, you know, this online thing? And I'm like, okay, so, and I can probably bore someone for hours as to why I think an online system is better. If I thought an in-person was better, then I would have a business that delivered in-person training. But you guys said it straight away, Eddie, I think, which was, well, what happens if you're late? What happens if something in your busy life has come up and you're late? And let's say you were booked in for a class or to see someone at a certain time, you've just lost your session. And then the chances are it's like, oh, I'll just go home. And then you go home, maybe a different mindset on, and then maybe it's in the cupboard, something comes out. Suddenly the whole thing starts to unravel. And I always tend to think adults want independence. Like, we crave it from the moment we can start driving and the moment we leave home. Like, we want independence. Well, I would then think that being tied down to a particular gym to see a particular person at a time that suits them because they should be busy, that's then not independence. That's busy professional people bending their life around someone else's. Now, I'm not saying that that's the worst thing in the world, but I don't think it suits most busy people best. Because I guess you guys, I mean, maybe you guys, do you train at the same time or do you train at different times?
Yeah, whatever works for us.
Whatever works. And it's not every day looks the same. Some days I can wake up at 5 a.m. Some days I go during my lunch at work. So whatever the day looks like.
And we've had situations where we've had an early program where we had to be there 5:30 a.m. And sometimes we might have a late night because our kids are sick. And so right there, like you said, we missed that session. And if it's a lifting session, that's a really big deal. Like it's a lot to it. So the flexibility has been incredible.
And even when we send Francesca the videos and how she fixes our form, it is so precise. Like, oh, move your elbow out a little bit. When you're doing it and you adjust the form according to her feedback, you notice the difference. Like, wow, like a little tweak completely changed the workout. So she's extremely precise and like.
If I can praise Anika for a bit. So we've done a bunch of different programs. And what we found is when we tell people, because we talk about this a lot, especially like you just mentioned, when it's virtual and it's not in person, one of the questions we get is, oh, how do you improve your form? Or how do you know you're doing it the right way? I will say that Anika has tried like 10 different things, and I've seen her go through the motions, and she's gone from not being able to do things correctly to now she can do push-ups and incline push-ups, and she's almost done doing her pull-ups. The transition has been incredible with the recording and just getting the feedback and being able to go to the gym and slightly modify what you're doing to perfect it has been so incredible. It's been amazing.
That's so nice to hear, because it's, as you can imagine, as you've just said, people say to you, well, how does someone correct your form? They're not there. It's like, well, okay, we live in a day and age where, we're all walking around with a phone. It isn't particularly difficult to record a clip in a subtle way. No one needs a film crew following them around the gym, and no one particularly wants that. But there are subtle ways. I mean, we sort of show, guys how to use like tiny little tripods. I mean, the tripod I use for this is a tiny little magnetic one. So I just stick it on a piece of equipment next to me. No one knows it's there. I record basically everything for demos, and you probably get to see some of those in the app and things like that. And I think this is a key part, because I always say, again, one of the things I say to people when they join is, when someone joins us, we'll assume that they don't train well, which sounds harsh, but the reality is most people go to a gym, watch people and copy them. Normal, right? Which means the quality and skill of training around the world isn't very good. No one's fault. It's just the way that it is. So we're on a mission to change that. One, because most of the people who come into the program, busy people like yourselves, which means time poor, which then means you're going to want to get the best return on the investment of time you put into your training. In other words, so the skill of that training needs to go up. So it's actually a huge part of what we do. And we say to people, send clips in, send videos in. And obviously, what we do is we put them on our screen, and we use a thing called Loom. So we do like a screen record, and we can pause it, and we can kind of point at stuff and give you, well, you've attested straight to it, which is really quite precise feedback. Because
alphas, I interrupt this show with a simple message. This show is here to benefit you and your progression to the best version of yourself. But not only just you, it's also here to benefit the people around you, your loved ones, your friends, other alphas in your vicinity. So why not do a really cool thing today? Something that I would thank you for, and maybe someone else would. Share this podcast with at least one other alpha out there who you know would benefit from it. Why not share the information, share the ability for someone else to grow? I'm sure they would thank you. I 100% would absolutely thank you. This podcast only grows by our listeners, our followers doing amazing things like giving us 5-star reviews, downloading podcasts, subscribing, and then, of course, sharing it with other people. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Share it with one person, and, of course, drop us a 5-star review, download the podcast, and, of course, subscribe. And now back to the show.
I think we can watch anybody train, and there's no one really who's ever come into the program, regardless of what level they're at, that we cannot improve them. And we're hell bent on that. And then what that means is you're safer. I think the first thing is a lot of people are like, oh, I've never been to a gym. I don't know what I'm doing. We're like, no worries, we'll guide you. We'll help you set up equipment correctly. Because again, understandably, sounds like you guys have been doing quite a lot of things and you've been into a gym a lot. But some people go into a gym and think it's like a kind of weird kind of metal jungle, right? It's like, oh, what does all this stuff do?
I will add one more thing to that is, so again, we've been through different programs, and all of them, this is, well, maybe her second one being virtual, but this one is successful. The other one wasn't. And you're there, even if you have a personal trainer, and then walking you through it. Being someone who's been in sports a little bit when I was younger, the benefits of seeing yourself recorded, even when I send it in and I watch it myself, is night and day. Someone could tell you, hey, you need to improve your form or something like that, and you're listening to them. But to see it and to see the tweaking, it's significantly important. All the professional athletes do it. They watch themselves being recorded, how they're doing, and that's very significant to see yourself on video.
Yep. So I record myself still. I've been training for 22 something odd years, and I still record myself. A lot of that will be for content and things like that. And we've just actually moved over to a brand new app, and all of the demonstration videos in there are of me. And quite often I've watched myself back and I'm like, I thought I was going a bit slow. I still see stuff. It's a never ending progression, because as you, let's say you get really good at doing a particular movement. And let's say as we slowly add weight, our body naturally does different things to combat the weight. And so our form naturally changes. And if we're not continually watching that back, not like being obsessed over it, but just checking in, right? Just checking in with what it looks like. I still do exactly the same thing. Normally I'm watching I think I'm going way slower than I am. And we always try to say to people, 1 second concentric, 3 second release, which the 3 second release is you think you count 3, 2, 1 in your mind. And actually when you watch it back, you're like, yeah, I'm still going way quicker than I thought. So it's a really good reality check. And I think it is a really important piece of what we do. And I'm really glad you guys have utilized that. Talk about the check-in element, because obviously you've both sort of you're clearly making more from what you've said, guys, making more progress than you've ever made before in any other program, and of course the actual training program, making sure you're training well, the food, all these things you've mentioned. Talk to us a little bit about the accountability, the check-in, having someone there. Maybe have there been any tough lessons like myth busting? Like, give us a little bit of insight as to those sorts of things.
There's so many layers to it. First of all, I think when you're going through a body transformation, more than the physical transformation, the mind transformation is the bigger leap. So, and I felt like Francesca has supported me through so many emotional and mental holes. Like, I'll tell her, I don't think I'll ever get there. And like, she'll give me a reality check. And it's been so great. Like, there's some little nuggets that always sticks to me. For example, when my weight will stall and I'll start feeling so discouraged, and she'll say like, hey, if you're on a train and it stops at a station, that's not your destination. Do you just get off or you stay on it? And I always keep saying this to myself. I'm like, oh my God, you're right. So now every time I hit a rut, I always constantly think back to all these golden nuggets she has told me through the months. And it has completely changed everything. Like the body transformation is one thing, but the mental transformation has been like a bigger leap for me.
I'll say for myself, and I think hearing her say this, I think everyone will have a different issue or a different challenge with going through programs. And so for myself, where I find a lot of benefits is in the accountability, because submitting that weekly check-in every week, accountability works on me. So I'm trying my best to hit the standard that's been set with myself and with my coach. So if I know I had a bad eating day, it'll eat me up until I check in. It'll bother me. And then I'll submit it and I'll feel bad while I'm checking in. But that's essentially what is driving me, is because it's keeping me on track. And I know that I'm going to have some challenging days, or something might happen and it might not be a perfect week, but that accountability helps me going. And as far as the check-in itself, I will say that we've both probably got it down to like 5 to 10 minutes. I love seeing the progress of my pictures. That has been so helpful. And it's right there on the app. That's been amazing. I could look just to see where I am from when I started to where I am, or over the last month. That's been great.
Actually, with the new app, one of my biggest challenge, now I'm going through the bulking or the muscle building phase, and it's been challenging for me to get my calories up to where I need to be. And Francesca always shows me how my activity and the calorie intake, it's a maintenance and it needs to go up. And the visualization helps me so much, because I'm like, oh, wait, I'm muscle building. I need to be up. And then I put in the extra effort to make sure I'm hitting all my macros.
Now, I'll add another benefit for this being virtual as opposed to in person, is when we get these check-ins, when we check in ourselves, we put in all of our numbers and everything that's really important. We put in any questions we might have, which is incredible. Again, we're down to like 10 minutes to do the whole thing. Is when we get that response back the next day. To her point, Anika's point, we can see everything. It's as if we're getting taught for 10 minutes about ourselves. And we can see all the graphs and what we're doing. And then we get the feedback about the working out. And it's so personalized. When you're in the gym, nobody's coming up and showing you this graph. This is where you were. It's very different. And it's just so detailed. And sometimes it's just that one little click that you need to experience to say, oh, okay, I can see where I am and I am doing well. Maybe you just need to see that chart, or maybe that specific feedback that you're hearing that you wouldn't necessarily get somewhere else.
Yeah, I think the little graph that you mentioned there. So we've just recently moved from one app to another, which was actually a year-long process in the background for us. So we started the process of looking at that app, me recording the videos, putting them in, the voiceovers. Like that started a year ago, and we were like, we don't need to rush this. It will be ready when it's ready. And obviously we launched it, and we all sort of sat there and were like holding our breath as we launched it. And of course, we launched it to clients who had already previously been in, and then of course from a cutoff point to everyone new coming in. And the feedback has been glowing the whole way through. And the particular graph, interestingly, Francesca was the first person to find. She's like, we found a graph that literally shows output in terms of calories and the calories coming in, so we can show someone whether they're above or below. And I was like, visual stuff. Now, I'm a visual learner. If someone just tells me stuff or writes it down, if I see stuff, immediately it's way better. And so we found these little things inside the app where we're like, these are just great coaching tools, just simple things. Because if you now, Anika, you know you've gone into a muscle building phase, and you know that food needs to go up, but you're going to be thinking, how much up? Like, is this now just gonna? But if we go, but here's a line that shows us, because we're putting the data in from different wearables that you might have in terms of steps and things like that. Here's the amount of calories you're burning. That's your red line. That's your expenditure. This green line, if it's that way around, this is your calories. That has to be above the other line. Otherwise, you're just treading water. And you're like, suddenly it makes a decision to keep on the food plan easier, I imagine, right?
Oh, yeah. Like, I feel like I was failing at hitting my macros till she showed me the graph and something went on. I'm like, wow, all this time at the gym, I'm wasting it if I'm not actually putting in the fuel to build that muscle. Literally
wasting. As in, if the goal is to build muscle, then we have to be in a caloric surplus by default to have the extra energy coming in to build the tissue, right? And so if your goal is building muscle and you weren't able to truly know, well, I need to hit this number and I can see if I don't, all the grinding that I'm doing in the gym is just keeping me in the same place. And you're like, well, I don't want to be putting all that effort in and like going for all that time, pain, energy, and actually not getting a reward for it. And if all it means is, yes, eat a little bit more food, that's so cool. And I think, again, and this is not to sort of bash in-person training, it has a place. But again, we're trying to come in with just little things like this, whereby we're with you all the time to some degree. You probably talk to Francesca probably through WhatsApp, so you have regular communication there if you need it. You've got all these little systems inside the app. We're essentially trying to wrap ourselves around you. So although it's completely virtual, it shouldn't feel like you're ever on your own. It should feel like we're always kind of there with you. Specifically, Francesca is always there with you. Guys, look, we've run out of time, but I've absolutely thoroughly enjoyed talking to you both. Well, you've been able to really clearly articulate the areas the things that you wanted, the things that you were struggling with. And I think it's also well done to you, because you've clearly extracted from the program the things that you needed. It's all very well and good us having these things in place and putting them out there. But if someone doesn't extract it all back out, then it's kind of all useless stuff. And I think you guys have both proved just how, well, one, easy it is to get the information out because it's sitting there, but then how well you've been able to actually put it into your lives and make amazing progress. So in terms of looking forward to Anika, you're off in a muscle building phase now. So you're off sort of like adding muscle. That's, I guess, what you're focused on. Eddie, what's your particular, where are you driving to now? What's the goal currently?
Yeah, so I've been doing this for about 7 months. I lost about 20 pounds. I was in dad bod phase, and I've been so happy. And I'm just going until I get to a low point, and then I'll switch to start building on muscle. And I love the process of doing it, week by week, as opposed to rushing it. I've been able to keep my muscle mass because I've done it at the right rate. And it's just been incredible. I will say we've done, again, so many other programs. We see results here. It's one thing to go doing, not going to bash anything else. It's one thing to go do something else. It's like you feel good and you come back, and then 3, 5, 6 months pass, and it's like
the same person.
You're the same person. You can see yourself. It's just the same. We've seen results. And the other thing I'll say to my last comment about that, and in the future, I want to get like strong and ripped, and that's when I switch. That's my goal.
I want to get on stage. I know it's a lofty goal.
Right. Well, now, hang on. You've now put that out to the universe, haven't you?
Yeah. I will say, for anyone listening to this and seeing this, what we hear a lot is this whole thing about the virtual thing. It's been with us for so long to go in person and see a coach and do all these things in person. If you're someone who's busy, you have kids, you have a busy job, this is better because it's so flexible. You don't have to conform to anyone else. And the fact that people are always there, we message our coach, when we need it, and when we have an issue, it shall respond back. We're sending these videos. We're getting to watch this every week. We get to find out more information about how we can improve. Just the flexibility of just being very busy adults. This has been by far the best version of a program that we could find that allows us to do this, work out, eat healthy, and be able to be parents and workers and all the other things that we do. So it's been a huge time saver.
Guys, thank you so much. It's hearing feedback. It kind of nearly makes me a little bit emotional, but I think any coach in any walk of life gets into coaching for the opportunity to have a positive impact into another human's life. You know, I think technically that's why we sort of do it, although we don't know it. And to hear you guys say back, you know, how we've been able to have a positive impact into your life and just how different and better and more useful it's been than anything else that you've done, honestly, has made my week talking to you guys and finishing off my sort of Friday.
Couple at every party who's pushing this thing. I'm like, hey, trust us.
Yeah, Andy, this has been incredible, man. We're
getting uninvited from a lot of places for talking too much about this.
No, we really appreciate it. This has been by far the best program we've been a part of, and we just appreciate you having us on here. The whole thing has been incredible.
Thank you so much.
Honestly, guys, the privilege and pleasure is all ours. Listen, and also, again, thank you for coming on and sharing this. There's going to be a lot of people who get to listen to this who you probably would have answered a lot of their questions and maybe debunked a lot of their myths about, you know, maybe something like this. And maybe that then gets to help someone else take the courage to move forward with something like this, whether that be with us or another online program, whatever that might be, but also then get to move forward and change their lives. So keep your heads down, keep focused. I'm going to be watching your results. And Anika, if you're saying you're getting on stage, well, that's now out there. So maybe I'll come and remind you about that. Thanks so much for coming onto the show. I'll be keeping an eye out on your progress, and I'm sure maybe we'll get to do this again in the future sometime. But for now, guys, thank you so much. Have a great day.
Cheers.
Okay. Bye-bye.